IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin, Doctor, your habit coach, and today we have a very special episode. Along with me, I have Adam Totounji, a podcaster, and we're recording from the extreme ends of the earth, right? Opposite ends of the
Yes.
earth, because we've got this Zoom call going on. And I'm loving this era of collaboration because we can talk to anybody, anywhere. And the way that our boundaries are breaking down is fantastic. Adam, welcome on to our podcast.
Man, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting. And yes, you are literally in the future. It's 7 o'clock over here in the evening on Wednesday, and it's Thursday morning, I'm assuming, over there?
Correct. It's Thursday morning, 7 here.
This is awesome. It's crazy because ever since we were actually having a conversation recently, you were on my show. And ever since we had that conversation, it got me really thinking. And every time I go deep into thinking about the opportunities that are coming out of this, quarantine, it's just, I am in love with the future of what us podcasters and content creators, the type of access we have now and the opportunity. I mean, for somebody out there who wants to really kill it, it's totally possible now at a whole nother level. It's ridiculous.
Correct. And in fact, the series that we're doing, these two podcasts, are all about why everyone should be podcasting and why, this medium should be growing and how we can start doing that as creators of content and why should we be creating content. So, Adam, you obviously weren't doing this podcasting for ever. So, how did this journey start? Where did you start this from? Why did you start this podcasting? Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I come from a childhood where I wasn't necessarily educated the traditional way. I was from preschool till about first or second grade. I was in a private religious Islamic school, right? I'm Muslim born, and that was an awesome experience. But because it's a religious school, it's different boundaries, different type of etiquette is taught. And then after that, I got into public school, the system for literally a year. Went through a lot.
Okay.
I was bullied for my identity, for who I was. Unfortunately, went through a lot of weird things, like a lot of people do. And mom pulled me out. Said,
Okay.
"We're not doing this. We're homeschooling you." I was homeschooled from third grade all the way till college.
Oh, wow. How was
Yes.
that as an experience? Because I keep telling people that homeschooling is the way to go because you have to learn more than just what people are teaching you in school. There's an education that's there in life that we need to be picking up.
Look, just like anything else in life, there's always pros and cons to it. However,
Yeah.
if you were to compare it between public school and that, homeschooling is definitely way better. It allowed me to, and this is where my story started, it allowed me to not have a limitation to my level of creativity. I was never told my dreams were impossible. All I was told was wake up, do what you got to do. My mom only cared about my religion. That was the only thing she cared about. She was like, Adam, all I care about is the fact that you become a Muslim you stay a Muslim and we're on the same pathway here. And, I end up seeing you in paradise. That's all she cared about. She didn't care about what career, what path. To her, as long as I was good with God, my life would be fine. So that's how she educated me. And so I was never told, hey, you're crazy or doesn't make sense. Obviously as a kid, I was very hyper. And so a lot of people told me to calm down naturally, but I was very much a dreamer. And so as a kid, I just had this really big urge for being very famous. And I'm very transparent about this. I'll tell you guys this, like one of the cons that came out of being able to be super creative was like a little bit ego involved, and you kind of learn to dissect it and, like be able to channel the energy elsewhere. But, I really, really, really wanted to become famous. And the reason why is because I was very, 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 very attracted by one very simple idea. Man, imagine if you were that popular. Like, let's say, I was just on another podcast earlier today. I said Justin Bieber. The name just randomly came up. Pop star, world internationally known, right? Maybe or let's say, Donald Trump. Who doesn't know Donald Trump? Right? The influence that comes behind that. I was like, man, I wish there was a world of people. And this was me at the age of 14. I was like, I wish there was more people out there using that level of fame to change the world. I always wanted to be that guy that everyone knows, but I'm a part of the crowd. Like, I
Nice.
don't know why that feeling is like really cool to me. Maybe it's
Hmm.
ego driven. I don't know. It's like a mix of humility / ego in a way, but that's
Correct.
where that whole, I guess, story started. Anyway, fast forward, I got into college at a really
Hmm.
young age. I immediately kind of went and got myself a position in the student government, was there for a couple of years, and eventually was president, which was really cool experience. I managed a good couple hundred people. And so that kind of gave me like management experience. It gave me a lot of different experiences.
Hmm.
And, naturally, I guess just through like most of us, I stuck to one thing. I just
Yeah.
always, as a kid, I always stuck to my dream,
Hmm.
which at that time it was very selfish when I was a kid. It was like, I want to become famous to be able to change the world, right?
Right.
And then after college, unfortunately, I went through a big turn of events, a
Hmm.
near death experience that I had, and
Okay.
that woke me up.
Hmm.
And instead of now saying I want to become famous, I was more driven now to help others do that. And I realized that if I helped others do that, I'll actually become 10 times more popular than what I could expect. And I don't know, that thought kind of disappeared. It was now more about like, you know what, this life is more than just the minuscule stuff you worry about. There's a lot more to it.
Hmm.
And I started to really want to care about other people's like success, other people's, ability to achieve their dreams. And my biggest thing, I always used to say this is I want to help create a world where people seek their full potential at
Hmm.
any given time and aren't told what not to do and that what they're doing is wrong. Because just because you're different or you're an entrepreneur and you have this big vision doesn't make you wrong. It just makes you different. And unfortunately, we don't have a system set up in place in this world at all where it helps motivate those people to become a reality. Instead, we put them down, we tell them slow it down, we give them medication, tell them they have ADD, hold it down, calm down. You're not passing your school classes. You're probably dumb. When in
Correct.
reality, like for example, someone like me, I just wasn't stimulated enough.
Hmm.
Class to me was boring.
Hmm.
Um, I spent more time running the student government than I did. And that was a voluntary job. I wasn't even getting paid than
Correct.
actually going to school. And so because of my story, my experiences, and realizing, wow, homeschooling had an effect on me where I was more creative. And then I literally went to college for a couple of years, and immediately it sheltered me.
Hmm.
Right. And then I realized this is not where I want to be. And I wanted people, and I realized how hard it was for me to pop out of that bubble, to go from like having a dream to turning it into reality and building an actual thing. Right.
Correct.
It was really hard. And so Mogul Insider and everything came to life, honestly, after probably, I would say, 15 to 25 failed projects.
Hmm.
And it started off as a podcast, and the idea
Hmm.
was to give people access to information, most like you too, access to information that would be harder to get if it weren't for the content you'd be creating, in a sense, right? That's how I believe podcasters provide value. It makes it really easy to access information. I
Correct.
wanted to do that in the business world. I wanted to go out there, meet very successful businessmen, because I didn't have a college degree. It was kind of selfish in the beginning. I was like, okay, how can I position myself to learn from these people? But then what I realized is, wait, hold up, this could be a vehicle that can actually get my dream. Because I never
Hmm.
knew, like, how are you going to go off and create a world where there's a big group of people
Hmm.
that are constantly spreading value, are constantly providing educational value, are constantly there to create a better infrastructure for generations to come? How do you do that? I could not answer that question.
Hmm.
For the hell of me, I couldn't answer that question. Took me
Correct.
5 or 6 years until I finally, probably 6 months ago, cracked the code. Where I was
Hmm.
like, now I know what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, and it's what's pretty intense is when you continue to accumulate, it just naturally, the snowball effect happens and things start to grow. And Mogul Insider went from a podcast, and now what we do really is I'm looking to go out there and build a whole nation of moguls that do three things. They educate the
Hmm.
world on what's right,
Hmm.
and they sway away from what's wrong, basically. And the way they do that is they're experienced already in it. So my clients, people I work with, already have a resume.
Mm.
I do not work with people who are still, at least from the clientele side, whoever's still trying to figure their life still out. I do that through the podcast or the content. I help create a infrastructure of mentorship.
Mm.
And, I'm going out there and I want to build a whole nation of them, a whole nation of basically mentors that, in different industries and different worlds that guide other people to build what they've done, to succeed in what they've done, to grow at the level they've done. And I do that by booking them on podcasts because I figured out a way where I can help people build brands, build a presence, create a lot of value, but obviously have a monetizable return. Because that was the biggest question, right? Because the question was like, the gap that I noticed was, how many, like, I'll ask you this, how many social entrepreneurs do you know off the top of your head?
Tons.
Names that you've heard of. I know, but like when you say tons though, really though, like when you say tons,
When
like
you
what
say,
is the number?
so social entrepreneur is different, right? So it's an influencer who is now using their
Mhm.
social media presence for money only, right? So, for example, is that what you look at?
Not money only. That's more so. That's just a marketing tactic. When I say social entrepreneurs, I'm considering people who understand the value of building a long-term brand are doing it for
Okay,
driven purposes. How
right.
many of those are like out there? There's probably maybe obviously there's a lot that I'm untapping. Couple, the last podcast you said 20, but after like looking at a list, I'm like, there's probably a couple hundred. That's it. Like if you look into
Right.
it, like
Yeah.
people who are building legit stuff behind the scenes and have a brand like Gary V status
Hmm.
is not a lot. And that's why Gary's freaking killing it. That's why everybody and their moms knows who Gary is.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
because he's one of the only players. Like it's not like the competition space is like so small compared to the real world out there. And so I saw that gap and I was like,
Hmm.
why on earth are people not leveraging the power behind it? Because it's a
Hmm.
very powerful platform. And I noticed I came down to a couple things. A,
Hmm.
they don't know how.
Correct.
Like how do you create attention and buzz and then strategically position it in a way to help you gain monetary value in the future or in the near
Hmm.
future? How do you do that? It's not a direct lead gen method.
Hmm.
So that's the second thing that I realized. I realized that the second thing is people are used to traditional marketing so much so to a point they think that's the only way that works. They're
Correct.
caught up with that, right? They're caught up with their old ways because it's worked for the past 20 years. And by the way, it'll continue to work forever and ever to go.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, what people are failing to notice is these new channels, podcasting. Another thing that got brought up is Discord, right? It's a community where you have you heard of Discord before?
No, I haven't. I was just going to ask you
Discord,
that.
it's basically like a lot of streamers, esports players, they use it to communicate with their community. I'm
Okay.
actually building a Discord chat right now for anybody who wants to join, be part of the Mogul Nation, have a chat with the creator. It's a freaking amazing way to build live, like raging fans, and you can build a server with hundreds of thousands of people in it.
Super.
The world is so adaptable right now, and because of
Hmm.
COVID-19, I realized that now is the time to like strike. And so
Yeah.
honest to God, man, like my story is just beginning to take off.
Hmm.
Uh, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I was still lost figuring out what the heck I wanted to do. It literally hit 5 months ago after years of trial and error, after like building multiple companies and failing, creating an agency and trying that out, starting the podcast, not really doing much with it. Like nothing was really going until I figured out what I just told you, which is it was
Hmm.
those two things. And then the third and final thing was that people, they're so caught up because of the traditional marketing scene. They're caught up with the ROI too much that they're not seeing the long-term value that a brand actually builds for you.
Correct.
Right. And I was like, okay, how can I take this and create a solution for it? And so I noticed, hey, getting booked on podcasts is such a great way to do it. And especially because of COVID now, because everyone's on Zoom. Look, you're in
Yeah.
India. We're literally chatting across the world, man. That's insane.
Correct.
What? The level of connectivity is nuts. And so I noticed that now is the best time to strike at this because you can connect with basically anybody around the world and
Hmm.
leverage their audiences. B, it can happen from your office. You don't have to leave. You're comfortable. You're chilling. Everything is great. And C, I know how to uh, leverage someone's audience in a
Hmm.
strategic way to be able to basically hint them down a funnel. Like it's
Correct.
it's like soft selling instead of hard selling.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
storytelling, really. And so what I do is I help my clients, make their dreams come true. It could be any business goal. It could be a personal goal. Like I actually literally had one of my clients wants to get into a partnership with Ashton Kutcher.
Hmm.
Right. And okay, then we set that as a goal. How are we going to strategically build a network to be able to position you in a way where someone like that's going to want to do business with you, right?
Correct.
Another client of mine wanted to do a speaking gig. Within 2 months, he paid us $6,000, $3,000 a month. Within 2 months, we got him. We're now getting him in front of a network, and the goal is to get him like a $25,000 speaking gig. Like, it's so cool. Like, we're basically allowing people to focus on the value while we in the back end take care of all the other stuff so that they can
Correct.
educate and create a better world for future. Because I noticed that if I'm going to really change the world and really create a movement, I can't do it alone.
No, you
And
can't.
so through TikToks, through podcasts, through social media content, through my clients getting booked on other podcasts, like Mogul Insider is basically going to touch every living soul eventually is my goal. Really. I want everyone and their mom and their mom's mom and everybody that knows them and that to not know me. I don't care about getting the credit myself. I just want the name to be known because the name stands for something, and it stands for something that's very powerful. And so that's my story, man.
Very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to dissect this down a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
So what I loved about this was right in the beginning, there were two guiding principles. There was this crazy creativity and this restlessness that was there, and this sense of ego that came along with it, right? And the way that you were able to funnel that or direct that into a particular direction is something that I want people to take away from this. Because I know lots of people who write in saying that I am restless, I am creative, people think I'm a misfit, people don't know, and they don't understand this. And I want to say that that is perfectly fine. As long as you know how to channel that, only then does it start making sense. Because otherwise, you're just going to go around in circles. And the faster you learn that process, the more time you have to grow and develop in this. You can wait till you're 30, 40 and figure it out. But I'm saying the faster you develop it and learn from it, the better it is for you. I think that was one key takeaway I took out from your story. The second one is on how, if you want to grow, you can't do this alone. You need a full, you need to have everybody growing with you together. And supporting people is one of the best ways of doing this. Very often we get into this mindset of, I'll do this myself, right? I can do this all by myself. I have the ability, etc. Of course you do. But the thing is that you grow faster and you get so much variety because you start partnering with people. And as soon as you take that as an important message out from this, your growth can be exponential almost, right? And the last part is about your 15 failed attempts. See, right now you got into podcasting, and podcasting is a valid business. Let me tell this to everyone, because I know a lot of you are wanting to start podcasts, but you're starting it from a sense of hobby. Like, I don't know what to do. Everyone's doing YouTube. Let me try podcast. No, but I'm saying that podcasting can be a legitimate business as well, as long as you take it step by step, understand the process, and hence start looking at it. Because Adam started 15 businesses. So obviously he had that business mindset. And that's why he got into podcasting. And that's how he's taking the podcasting forward. Right?
Yeah, and I just want everyone to know, like, I had zero clue. So, like, to go back to your first point that you mentioned, great point. I think everybody needs to hear this, though, at least for me. I don't know about your opinion on this, but my opinion on this ish is hard. Like, it's not easy. This game is not easy. If you're going to go out there and dare to tell me that you're going to change the world, just expect to have a very big uphill battle. Now, also, at the same time, though, like, you could be the person that's like, hey, I just want a college degree. I want to get a normal job and live a normal life. And that's fine. Look, hey, I applaud you. My thing really, though, comes down to I just want to see a world where everybody can get what they want. Because unfortunately, I really envision a world in 40, 50 years from today where someone like me with my vision and dream is more supported rather than looked down upon in the beginning. In the beginning, they hate on you. Then they come and congratulate you type of thing. And so the only thing really that kept me going was, I don't, for those listeners here that, if any of you guys have like religion or anything like that, it was for me, it was my religion. It was God at the end of the day, because I had so many moments where I looked myself in the mirror and I felt nothing but hopelessness and lost cause. In my head, I had this vision and it made sense. And I really wanted it to happen for the sake of people, for the sake of not even for me. I just wanted to be able to feel like one day I'm in a position where, because of the movement that I started, other people are living out their dream lives. Like, that is like the coolest thing to me, right? Because I noticed I wanted a certain life for myself and it was really hard to obtain. And so I had no idea, as I told you earlier, like, how do you take that into reality? I don't know what that meant. And so the only thing that really kept me going was my belief in a higher power, because of one reason. As a Muslim, I believe that God's plan is always the best for you. And so I always used to tell myself that, okay, if this is God's plan, then this specific moment of complete despair is happening for a reason. Yep. And so instead of really dwelling on it, I would dwell on it for like maybe 24, 48 hours. But then I would ask myself a very direct question. Adam, do you want to be labeled a failure? What's a failure? Someone who gave up on their dreams. Yes. Do you want to be labeled that? And the answer was no. Okay, cool. I basically checked a box that said the following. I, Adam Totounji, will try till the day I die to complete the mission I have in my mind. And even if I fail trying, at least I can die. And on my tombstone, it says he tried. Period. That's how I channeled my ego, by the way. That was a very ego-driven statement. My ego was too big for me to say, I don't want to be known as a failure. It was an ego thing, right? But instead of making it in a way where it was like I was showing off about things, I turned it in a way where it motivated me and it created a desire that was impeccable. Like the desire was just so insane. I tell this to everyone. My desire to see the world that I'm looking to help influence and change with the people that we're bringing on this entire, that's why I called it the Mogul Nation. It's a whole nation of people doing this. And my desire to see that even for 24 hours, like if I get to live my dream out for 24 hours and then die, and then you tell me, Adam, hey, you're going to have to work 55 years of your life to live 24 hours to see your dream come true, I would sign up immediately. And so really it's to wrap up those three things that you mentioned, really it was a mix of a lot of things. It was a mix of, my faith in God, as I mentioned. It was a mix of, just not wanting to really, I love that you meant, because I never really thought of that. Like the fact that you mentioned that I took certain behavior characteristics and I swapped them and I channeled them in a way to help me out. For sure, that was a big one.
Good. I love it.
Yeah, man. It's really fun stuff, man.
I think this is a fantastic place to end our first part of this podcast. How can people get in touch with you, and what should they do? How should they reach out to you? And
great question. So in the near future, we're actually creating a Discord chat. But for now, at Adam Totounji on all social media accounts, you can literally search me. I'm all over the place. Instagram, easiest way to DM, because I'm always looking at that. Okay. And that's basically it.
Perfect. So. Awesome. Superb. So I'm super excited about our part 2, which is about how should we start our podcasts, right? Yes. And that's going to be coming up soon. So let's get straight into that. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money and Intel. Before I tell you about some of the shows that we have for you this week, I really wanted to really point out the incredible efforts of our host and our team. We've been able to maintain most of our production schedule in this lockdown, which is going into 4 months now. And I couldn't be happier with the fact that our hosts and team have been able to just get all of this stuff out so incredibly well. So I just really wanted to call them out for that and thank them for their support in this time. And since I spent so much time talking about that, and I want to get you out of here quickly, let me give you a quick update on a few shows that you should check out this week. On Siders, we had Amish Tripathi, really interesting discussion, both of them dive deep into history. Monty Panesar was on Edges and Sledges, another really cool show. On Advertising is Dead, Tanmay Bhatt showed up. That was a cool episode. Malini Agarwal, also probably better known as Miss Malini, showed up on Absolutely Right. It's just been an absolutely gangbusters week in terms of like the kind of guests we've had and the conversations we've had on the network. Please do check some stuff out. And with that, we hope to see you again next week.
Hi guys, this is Ayushi.
And I am Ritasha.
And welcome to Agla Station Adulthood.
It's a fun podcast we've got going on, and we'd love for you to tune in and enjoy with us.
Join us as we stop at various stations and discuss different topics that seem to be bothering us and hopefully
Dating,
you as well.
relationships, beauty, just being an adult, lots of different things.
We don't have a great grip on it, but we've done okay so far.
Catch Agla Station Adulthood every Thursday on the IVM app, the IVM website, or wherever else you get your podcasts.